What do you envy most about the opposite gender? Grip strength. I thought I had mediocre grip strength for the longest time till my friend told me to use one of those testers. 120 pounds of grip strength. Something I wish wasn't a thing between guys is the crushing handshake. I'm average, and dudes always smash my hand if I'm not ready, or if it's a tough-looking guy I'll go in for a hard squeeze and accidentally overdo it and crush their unexpectedly baby soft hand. I was hoping the pandemic would the handshake. Maybe it's just a Texas thing. Honestly, I never shake hands with the women because of their famous grip power. I fear getting crushed. I walk home from work through a park, and not a day goes by where I don't see at least a few women hanging single-handed from the trees. Such powerful hands. I'll never forget the time I saw my mom accidentally rip the car door off when we were getting groceries. No periods or PMs. Menstrual cups were life-changing for me. And I really mean life-changing. I have some issues and my periods are so heavy for 2 days. I used the Super Plus and Ultra tampons, but they still leaked. I was in the bathroom constantly. I still had to use pads. Going anywhere was nerve-wracking. I'd sit on towels, sleep on 2 towels folded over. The menstrual cups are so much cleaner. In all the years I've used them, I'd count on one hand any issue. I don't advise doing yoga when your period is heavy with them. They are so much more comfortable than tampons. In my heavy days, I do use period underwear for any what-ifs, but it's mostly for my sanity. No, I hate periods. Don't care whose it is. They're gross. And I don't like tampons and pads. It either feels like you're plugging yourself up or you're wearing a stinky diaper. I used the Depot and it was the best thing ever. No period. No cramps. Except the fact my bones are becoming brittle and I felt like I was literally going insane, so I'm done with it. Felt very reassuring. Other women who used the Depot also felt like they were going insane. I feel dramatic saying insane, but I quite literally felt like I was going mental. Also, yay, my boyfriend needs to suck it up, and I'm glad he doesn't care. Period doesn't stop what goes on between us. I just hate blood. I have endometriosis, and I'm on day 1 with the 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. shift. The pills my doctor gave me are so strong they make me high and tired, so I can't take them before, during my shift. I took half of one once and I got drug tested the 3 days later. I had to bring in my prescription as proof that I am not an addict. All the ladies sharing their experiences about their own struggles is so comforting. I am in my late 30s and for the first 2 days of my period I have been floored with exhaustion, heavy bleeding, and cramps. I have always suffered with PMS leading up to my period, which has actually disrupted my life negatively in the past. It is somewhat nice to know I am not alone in this torment. The one silver lining is I have a sweet husband who will buy me treats and let me nap, and is completely understanding, to the best of his ability, of how put down I am for 2-3 days. I actually like the simplicity of men's choices. There's not much a guy doesn't look good in. Also, not having my mom on me for not matching. I didn't think there would be so much debate on colors, that I have to wear off white in winter and fall in white in summer and spring, or if the navy looks black or blue. Sometimes simplicity is nice. Also, hairstyle. Tired of having to worry if my hair isn't straight or if it's not curled. Also, pockets. Or finding dress pants. Or finding dress pants with usable pockets, not sewn shut or without denim look. Or worrying about wardrobe malfunctions. I keep thinking more about it. Shirts. Seriously, I don't want them to be see-through. Like, why do I have to wear an undershirt under a shirt, and more for the same price as a good quality guy shirt? I have to wear men's polos as a uniform because there's hardly any girls, and there's no girls' polo where I go. I actually really like my limited options. It keeps things simple. If I could, I would rock nothing but t-shirts and jeans with the odd button-up over shirt, obviously unbuttoned because I hate being formal. Honestly, if you've ever seen the OC, I have Ryan's clothing style pretty much. Only difference is my jeans aren't as baggy. Generally, there is more clothing in women's sections than men's. The one thing that is optimistic about this for men is that men are less wasteful with clothes and have a smaller carbon footprint from fast fashion due to quantity differences. The downside is that men have less styles to choose from. Women have all these accessories on clothes, be it a buckle or some other feature, to make the style look unique. Men's department has a lot of repetitive styles that looks too uniform. The ability to piss and stand. Have you seen what a women's toilet looks like at a bar? You would never touch us again. I went hiking with a friend once. He needed to pee and I was glad to get to rest for a while, take in the scenery, and have a bite. All he did was go a bit off the trail, find a tree, and returned within 2 minutes. When it was my turn to go to pee, I had to go behind a bush. When I returned, I found he had sat down and was halfway through his sandwich. I have never irrationally hated someone so much in my entire life. At one of my jobs, I clean bathrooms at a school. Can confirm, women's bathrooms are so much worse. In addition to one more fun bodily excretion, there's also a bunch of social things. Makeup and hand lotions end up everywhere. And there are social things. Using a paper towel to open the door to leave and casually throwing it on the ground, despite there being a trash can right there for some reason. One person does it, and the floor is covered. Then, this being a private middle school, there are social things that really need to be addressed. Food everywhere. I'd imagine, though I can't say for sure, this is the result of girls saying, "I'm not hungry at all, I don't want to get fat," and then walking casually to the bathroom, eating a lunch, and trying to dispose of the remains by flushing and flooding the bathroom, jamming it into the vampire boxes, leaving no room for tampons and pads which now go to the floor, or just throwing it in the ground amongst the discarded paper towels. I'm not blaming women for any of this. This is a social pressure men just don't generally deal with. But a men's room generally just has piss in front of the urinal, which isn't nice, but if you stay on top of it, takes less than a second to clean and disinfect. I don't fully understand this. I get that ladies squat to go to the toilet in public places, but as far as I know, men don't squat to go number 2 seconds in public. I have only ever done it in really grubby stalls. I guess my point is that at some point someone has used a stall and made a huge mess and not cleaned it up. That then creates a situation where the next person is forced to squat, which adds to the mess that's not being cleaned up. Sounds like women's bathrooms are way worse than men's. I have been told, not a woman, so I haven't tested it, that if you put 2 fingers on your hood, roughly on each side of your clit, and pull the skin up until it is tight, you can pee standing up without pissing all over your shoes and clothes. I have also been told that it takes some practice, so give it a couple test runs in the shower. You will not have the precision or accuracy to hit a toilet while standing, but it could come in handy if you are outside and need to use a tree. If it makes you feel better, men's toilet seats are usually covered in piss too. We have urinals where men are supposed to go when they have to pee. However, lots of men are shy, the urinals are busy, or they need to do both. That would be fine if they lifted the toilet seat, but most men don't. About 50% of the time I go to the bathroom in public, I have to clean off the toilet seat from someone else. Maybe you just be satisfied for longer. Even with just masturbation, our orgasms seem to be way better than yours. My little theory here is that you reach the peak, but don't have enough time to look around, and therefore always want to come back. Almost like you made it to Paris, but didn't get out of the airport. For us, it's like we get to the peak and are able to stop for lunch when we get there, have drink maybe, and check out all the tourist spots. Maybe stay for dinner if we're having a good time. Second orgasm. But then the next chance we get, it's like, I already saw all that. I don't need to chase the dream again just yet. Maybe next time. Guys can have multiple orgasms as well. The sad truth is that most guys' Yule experience seems to be around penis and penetration, which is the reason so many people still believe this. The only thing that is a issue here is the stigma surrounding butt stuff for men, especially straight men such as myself. I would be willing to try some butt stuff with my woman if I knew she was open to enjoy it and wouldn't use it against me or view me differently after. But there's this fear that may even be irrelevant with butt stuff. I'm afraid to be seen as less of a man and have a specific action used against me at some point. I'm also afraid that my woman would run her mouth around town about our experiences and have her friends or acquaintances see me as a weirdo or something. All this being said, unfortunately, just avoid it altogether. For me, a traditional orgasm, a very quick and intense shot, pun intended, of pleasure followed by an immediately steep decline. The level of pleasure I get depends on how long I take to build up to that point. Once I get to a certain point of stimulation, there's a quick ramp up to the edge of orgasm. It's at the precipice that things are really pleasurable and where I try to stay for as long as possible. That's when the brain starts to get foggy, turns to mush eventually. The problem is making sure I don't hit the point of no return, because once that's hit, there's no climbing back up the cliff. The refractory period sucks, as nothing I do can bring any pleasure back. If I went long enough, it can be a mostly full body experience with shudders and spasms and euphoria. If it's a quickie, there's not really that much. It's more like a release of tension. With an anal orgasm, it takes a while to build up to being pleasurable. I have to wait for things back there to relax, find the right angle, but the pleasure builds up, like waves that keep getting stronger. The sensation is, I don't know how to really describe it, but it hits a different part of the brain and sends the same kind of shudders all over my body that a traditional orgasm that's built up does. Once I get to the point of orgasm, it's a very different sensation, as it's not as potent of a single hit from a regular orgasm, but just hits everywhere. The whole body gets into it. Orgasm is different as there's no ejaculation for me, and therefore I don't hit the refractory period. That means I can continue to build pleasure until it crests to the next orgasm. That can just keep going on, and you always build up a little more, so each successive one is slightly more pleasurable than the last. When I do finally ejaculate, it's beyond anything I can do with just stimulation of the penis. It usually takes me a while to come down from the high, the euphoria, and massive jolt of endorphins. Usually end up just a twitching puddle of mush for a good 30 minutes after something like that. I'm not sure if that does the sensation any justice, but yeah, it's a hell of a lot better IMO. Top answer by far. At my absolute peak, I stole a night away with my then girlfriend, whom I adored and knew was the best creature on this planet. We loved and were infatuated with each other even at that nascent stage. It was our first overnight, and I reached the end 5 times and felt like a god, but was always amazed with the numbers she notched up that night. There is a lot of pressure on men to act a certain way. If, for instance, any of your family were to somehow find out that you ever wore a dress, you would be ostracized from some of them. Family reunions, large events just become a no-go unless you're okay with constant jokes or worse for a good decade or so. And that's just what's told to your face. Same goes for if your coworkers find out. It's easy to say, just don't care about that, or their opinions don't matter if they act like that. But it's really not that easy. I'm a guy that's worn a dress in public twice, and am open to do it more if the timing is right, but it's a major risk. I've heard what happened to my old best friend when he wore a skirt. A lot of people just suddenly turn on you, and that was with him already being out as bi, which people took way better than him wearing a skirt. Our mom, which is actually our friend's mom, but she was there for us like a second mom and calls us her kids, was furious with him when she saw. I only ended up hearing about what happened secondhand from our mutual friend, but it sounded horrible. She outright refused to see or talk to him until he changed. I'm pretty sure that was the event that also made him isolated from his bio dad too. Then try them, don't hold your back. Maybe buy one online and try it out at home if you're unsure how to start. And if you feel like, nah, it's not my thing, then sell it again or so. If you like it, try small walks outside. Maybe try it first with a light summer dress or even a light skirt or so. The first step is always the hardest, but it's better to try than to think all the time how it could be. I believe in you. One of my longest running friendships is with a man who wore a skirt the first day I met him. It was a long skirt and everything else about him was just regular guy clothes, a flannel button up and regular sneakers, but he had this awesome muted quiltwork skirt on, and didn't draw any attention to it or anything. I only noticed BC of the swooshing noise when he walked. I thought it was so awesome that he just wore a skirt. BC, it was fucking hot in the kitchen and outside. More power to him. Dress for the weather no matter what gender you are. Seriously, who cares? Not having to choose between periods or birth controls that change us so much, even our sense of smell changes. My choice was, okay, let's do hormonal BC. And you're already sensitive to estrogen, or some, and have bad PEMD, and progesterone and extra estrogen make you go bat nuts and want to uproot your entire life for 2 weeks every month at least, or stick this piece of copper up your uterus that turns it into a hemorrhaging eldritch creature that sends earthquakes through your body for 10 days or so. Also, you'll bleed through fucking diapers you wear to bed sometimes. Or I could jump through all the annoying hoops to get sterilized, and I don't know if I want to commit to that. I picked the copper option. The periods did chill out at least though, and I'm not going nuts, so works for me, I guess. I sometimes stop and think about how I've been on hormonal contraceptive pills for all of my adult life. I'm 31 now, so that's well over a decade, and I wonder about the long-term impacts. And on a basic level, I just have no idea how my brain functions when not taking these little daily pills. What's being affected? I'm grateful I don't have to worry about getting pregnant, and for the other benefits, periods are much lighter and shorter, but I do wish me and my boyfriend could share the load. Why not just use condoms and stop the birth control pills? I'm not very Yule, so I'm genuinely curious, not judgmental. For me personally, the thought of taking a pill that changes the essence of my endocrine system is very scary and not worth the thrill of. This is my opinion so far. I will change my mind if I come across convincing arguments. Main 1. Ability to have biological kids later in life. Medicine has improved and all, but having to plan a kid based on a biological clock, rather than when it makes the most sense in my life journey sucks. Secondary, key standing up and without unclothing. That's unique to my outdoor pursuits. I know there are female urination devices, but it's extra weight plus weight of cleaning supplies. Water. Having to pee when doing winter backpacking, or when you are in a harness with multiple clothing layers, is error. I end up not hydrating enough to avoid it, which isn't good at all. Being able to play a more passive role in dating, and not having to make the first approach. I have next to no dating experience since I have social anxiety and find it really hard to initiate conversations with people in general, let alone someone I'm attracted to. As a result, I'm quite lonely. Trying to work on it though. Also, a lot of you have pointed out that women have to deal with creeps, stalkers, etc. I totally agree. I never intended to imply that in the realm of dating, everything is sunshine and rainbows for women. I know very well that's not the case, and I get second-hand embarrassment whenever I see some dude coming on way too strong to a woman. I can only imagine what some of those guys are doing behind the scenes. I just think that some of the positive attention and forwardness would be a nice thing to experience, as I find it easier to talk to and impress someone if I know that they're taking an interest in me. This will sound twisted, but when they are the targets of domestic abuse or Yule violence, people react with anger on their behalf for the most part. When it happened to me, people either mocked me, didn't believe it happened, or decided I deserved it somehow. I was 10. What 10-year-old boy, who still thinks girls are gross, is going to want to have Yule interactions with a teacher older than their mom? I never laid a hand on my ex, but she accused me of hitting her, as revenge for breaking things off after she cheated, and I had to sit in jail until I could see a J. I lost my job, my apartment, and a ton of friends and family who either sided with her by default, or knew I didn't do it, but didn't want to be pulled into the drama and associated with the domestic abuser. And when she admitted, in court, to the judge, she only accused me out of spite. The judge just dropped the charges against me, didn't order them cleared from my record, and didn't charge her with any crimes. If I had been born with a vagina instead of a penis, my teacher would have rotted in prison, and my ex would be in prison for filing a false police report, if not in prison for actual abuse, assuming she would be a he in this scenario. I feel this so much. I was 8 and abused by my 14-year-old foster sister. No one took it seriously, and I was eventually sent to a new home because I was the problem. Somehow, my ex-wife called my command staff and told them I hit her all the time. She did this because I was leaving her for cheating while on deployment. I was subjected to all kinds of BS and passed over for rank. Even after she admitted to lying, she then offered up the same story to a well-known battered spouse attorney that she hired for our divorce. That lawyer treated me like I was the scum of the earth and treated her like she could do no wrong. Even after the ex admitted to her lawyer that she lied about the abuse, her lawyer still brought it up to the judge in the custody hearing. My boyfriend's ex was the type to use the police as a weapon against him. She literally attacked him one day, was punching him and scratching him. He was bleeding in multiple places, and all he did was hold her wrists so she couldn't keep hitting him. And she called the police, cried to them, and he was immediately cuffed and spent a few nights in jail. Court date comes and she realizes if he's in jail, he can't pay his half of the rent, so she didn't press charges. She faced no repercussions and he still worries the cops are going to show up one day and take him to jail for some she made up cause she was having a bad day. The ability to get a proper diagnosis. Most of the criteria for mental health problems and developmental disorders are heavily based on how males show symptoms. I was denied autism and depression diagnosis by doctors because I did too well, even after expressing some really faffed up thought I've been having. I've been saving up money for private healthcare for months, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Stuff like general health too. My period that caused me to pass out and wake up in a pool of my own vomit and blood. I injured my head during the fall. Was apparently not concerning enough, and I was just being overdramatic, because the gynecologist I went to was also on her period, and she was coping just fine. Women's bodies can be so much more beautiful than men's bodies. Sure, it takes work to look good, but that's universal across the genders. All things being equal, women are so beautiful. I think they're both just as stunning. Men's arms and legs, my goodness, buff, fat, or skinny. Y'all still have good arms and legs. And my heart always skips a beat seeing a man with rolled up sleeves and also wearing trouser braces, and men's eyes and eyelashes are always so pretty, and so often really like how men's eyebrows are. There's so much I could say, because men's bodies are just as beautiful and handsome and stunning as women's. You just may not see as much art of it because in history, it was typically made by men. Women's bodies are also obviously stunning too. I love smile lines, and women's lips are so pretty and also soft. Hopefully women feel more comfortable expressing attraction more explicitly, but it took me years to be open about it myself. Lamau. I'm a bi woman though, so yeah, to me, both are just as perfect.